After taking a look at the sampler tape last time, I'm moving on to the first of the regular tapes this time around, which was on the front of issue 42. Before we get stuck in though, I have a correction and an addition to episode 1. When I was talking about Gribbly's Special Day Out, I mistakenly credited the game to Tony Crowther, when it was in fact made by Andrew Braybrook. I don't really know how I managed to do that, especially as the correct name was right there in front of me on the title screen, so you have my apologies. The other thing that a viewer pointed out to me was that there was a side B to that tape that contained standard audio of a roughly 9-minute track called Thalamusic, and it was in their opinion the best thing on the tape. I was actually aware of this, but I didn't want to fall afoul of YouTube's copyright algorithm by including the music. It can be found elsewhere on YouTube if you do want to listen to it though, so I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. So with those things out of the way, let's start looking at the tape, shall we? Right up until the magazine was just about to go to print, Newsfield had a playable demo of Katakis lined up for the cover tape. Then Activision got wind of the game and decided it was way too similar to R-Type, which they had the home computer rights to. They threatened Rainbow Arts with a lawsuit, and so an alternative game had to be sorted out, which ended up being Time Tunnel, originally published by US Gold. According to the original Zzapped review from issue 12, in Time Tunnel you take control of a gnome who has to venture throughout various eras in time, gathering parts of a map which will explain how he can become King of the Gnomes. Very strange. When the game first boots up, your little gnome will be in his mansion, and if you go in blind like I did, you will probably have no idea what to do next. By reading the aforementioned review and watching a few YouTube videos, I eventually figured out that you first have to go and get a log and put it in the fireplace before using your magic to set it ablaze. This will reveal a vital part of your time machine which should be placed on the top right to restore functionality to it. Finally, you have to go off to another room to choose which era in time you want to visit, before entering the time machine itself. This is an adventure game where you gather seemingly random items from around different time zones and use them to solve puzzles. Where Time Tunnel has the edge over something like Dizzy, in my opinion, is the inventory system. At any time you can enter a magic cupboard where you can drop up to 8 items inside, which is extremely useful. The other thing that is better than Dizzy is that it dispenses with the awkward platforming altogether and just focuses on the adventuring aspect. Time Tunnel is a bit of an older game, so the graphics are nothing amazing, though some of the background art is actually quite nice. Before I give my final thoughts, I thought it would be interesting to see what the Zzapped crew had to say about the game. Julian Rignall was quite harsh on it, saying, "Time Tunnel just about sums up this game perfectly. It looks like a Commodore has been sent back several years into the past and brought back to the present with an ancient program loaded into it." Gary Liddon was quite a bit kinder to it, saying, "I wouldn't recommend Time Tunnel to anyone but a real arcade adventurer, but there is some addictive streak in it." Overall, they awarded a score of 49% and stated it was a barely average arcade adventure. Personally, while I do admire certain aspects of the game, I just don't have the patience for this sort of game nowadays. It's extremely slow, and figuring out what to do where and which items are important would take way too long. I would end up just playing along with a guide, which kind of defeats the purpose really, doesn't it? Before I wrap things up, I thought I would also take a quick look at Katakis, the game that was supposed to be on the tape originally. It is of course a horizontal shooter, and quite a difficult one at that. When I played it, I struggled to get to the end boss of stage 1, but I did manage it once, and then died almost straight away. Katakis strikes me as a solid shooter, with nice graphics, decent music, and rather shrill sound effects that tend to drown out the music. If I put some time into it and got better, I expect I would eventually be able to make some progress into it, but it's very easy to crash into an asteroid. As for the R-Type comparisons, you can see that they have copied the Force Pod that you can attach to the front or rear of your ship, but other than that, I think the two games are actually quite different. Although the game did have to be removed from store shelves at the time, Activision did actually hire Manfred Trent and Rainbow Arts to work on the official Commodore 64 port of R-Type, and Katakis was actually renamed as Daenerys and released as well, so it's not all bad news. That brings us to the end of episode 2. I would love to hear what you think of Time Tunnel and Katakis if you have played them. Join me again for episode 3 soon, and in the meantime, take care.